7-Day Outlook.
And welcome to Weather Geeks. I am here with Dr. Kim Cobb, who is a distinguished scientist and professor in the School of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences at Georgia Tech. And even though I'm a professor at University of Georgia, Dr. Cobb and I are good friends. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Now, look, you travel around the world. You're visiting caves. You're looking at various rock formations. Tell us a little bit about your day job as a professor and some of your research, what you're doing.
So the aim of my research is to try to understand the variations of climate that have occurred in the past in order to put in context what's happening today. Right. So I use corals from the Central Pacific and stalagmites from the caves of Borneo to make those long records of climate change so that we can understand what happened before we started putting a lot of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
Now this is a field called paleoclimatology, loosely.
That's right.
Tell us about some of the, you've talked about corals and stalagmites and other things, but tell us generally about how paleoclimatology is used in terms of climate research.
Yeah, so there are many different ways to try to leverage the work that we do, and one of the ways that you can understand climate change is by looking at trends that are different today than they were in the recent past.
Right.
And so many of the viewers may be familiar with discussions around the hockey stick, where you combine records from ice cores and tree rings and corals to try to understand where temperature on a very large scale has been over the last 1,000 years, for example.
But how do we, I know there's some people out there, well, how do we trust that?
Yeah.
Do we know that these records are accurate, these paleoclimatological records? What would you say to that question?
Well, basically what we can do is we can compare the record of the coral or the cave or the tree ring over the 20th century, for which we have by and large good estimates of climate and temperature over that time period. We calibrate these paleoclimate records over the recent past, and then we use those relationships and their uncertainties to reconstruct temperatures in the more distant past.
Now, you just keyed me in on something I've got to follow up. You said uncertainties. Uncertainties we know what uncertainty means as scientists, but I think that's a word that gets abused and misused in the public and debate. Talk a little bit about what you mean by uncertainty, and does that make the data flawed or unusable?
No, of course not. It actually makes it more usable when you have really good estimates of the uncertainty of the records that you're using to reconstruct temperature.
Right.
So, for example, when we go to understand, for example, how a volcanic event 700 years ago impacted global climate, it's really important to have really good estimates of uncertainty on those records, that you can know if the model is hitting the target within the realm of uncertainty of the reconstructions or not.
Right.
So it's an extremely important part of climate science when you make these kinds of comparisons, try to enhance your understanding by looking at these records of the past.
Now, we call this episode the Climate Adventurer, and one of the producers said you're like the Indiana or Jones of the climate world, because you travel to the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Tell us a little bit about where you go and what you're doing out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, literally.
Yeah.
You said you're at 2 degree latitude?
Yes, so 2 degrees north, smack in the middle of the Pacific.
Yeah.
And so I've been going there for almost 20 years now.
Okay.
And I go every couple years. This year, of course, we're going a lot with the coming El Nino event. So we go out there and we collect both records that will cover the most recent past via scuba diving.
No, and this is coral that you collect?
This is coral records that are growing on the reef today, and they've recorded the temperature history of the last several decades in their skeleton. We use those for calibration, and then we comb the beaches on these islands, where you can walk around and pick up a coral that might be 1,000 years old or 500 years old or 7,000 years old, and we apply the same kinds of analyses as we do to the living coral reefs to understand what temperature did in the more distant past.
Now, why do you go out into the middle of nowhere as opposed to perhaps somewhere a bit less remote?
Like the Keys or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So the reason why we have to go there is because we're chasing this climate phenomenon called the El Nino Southern Oscillation, which has its biggest impacts along the equator in the tropical Pacific.
Right.
So that's the focus of my research, is to try to understand the natural variability in that system so that we can put the current events into proper context.
Right, and a bit later on in Weather Geeks, we're going to be talking more about El Nino as well. And later in this show, we're going to talk about this large bleaching event, global bleaching event, which is unprecedented.
Yes.
But tell us a little bit about your travels and the dangers and some of the, I mean, you got sick out there one time recently? What happened out there?
Yeah, I did. So I got chikungunya this spring doing my research in the tropical Pacific. There's been a proliferation of mosquitoes with the warm and wet conditions around these islands.
Right.
That's been a challenge this year in particular. But this work has never been easy, let me put it that way. So these islands are very hard to get to. I've used the yacht of the Prince of Saudi Arabia. I've gotten a ride with Norwegian Cruise Lines.
Oh, wow.
I've been on old, crusty research vessels that feel like they're going to fall apart, and everything in between. So we do what we can to get out there on a regular basis. And then once you get there, you have the challenges of, do you have clean drinking water, or is the proper safety protocols in place? Scuba diving is such a remote location.
Right.
So this work is extremely challenging, both in terms of getting there and then once you're there, operating scientifically.
Now, so you go out there, you collect your data, and then are you bringing this data back to your lab here at Georgia Tech and then running, what type of analysis, what goes on from that point?
Yeah, so unfortunately we don't have the ability to look at a coral in the field and know when it grew. So we have to bring all the material that we collect back, and then we're careful to date all of that material and then identify the segments that we'd like to work on in terms of climate reconstruction. What we do in my lab is we generate very small powders drilling down in time through the corals or the cave stalagmites.
Okay, so this is to get you the resolution?
So we drill every 1 millimeter or so, and that's equivalent to about every month we have an estimate of ocean temperatures from these very remote locations.
Wow.
1 month.
Wow.
So for resolving a phenomenon like El Nino that comes and goes in 6 to 8 months, it's critical that we have that kind of high resolution information. And so we have a machine at my lab back at Georgia Tech which runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, analyzing these coral powders for their geochemistry so that we can understand how ocean temperatures have varied in the past.
Now, in about 30 seconds to go here, what would you say, understanding sort of the value of this work, but what would you say are the real caveats or sort of watch out, gotcha things as you're doing this type of work and interpreting the data? What's the biggest problem?
I mean, one of the biggest problems is that we need a lot of records in order to build a very robust reconstruction to reduce those uncertainties which are associated with this business. You have to throw a lot of data at the problem. And so that's why I've been working at these sites for about 18 years to try to amass that kind of data that we need.
And when we come back, we're going to have more with Dr. Kim Cobb, some of these fascinating stories. We're going to talk about this global bleaching event. Can we detect El Ninos of the past? But next, our Geek of the Week.
Dr. Ellen Mosley Thompson, director of the Bird, Polar, and Climate Research Center and distinguished professor at The Ohio State University, is this week's Geek of the Week. She and her team drill ice cores to reconstruct the U.S. climate. And on one such mission in Antarctica, she was caught in a blizzard. No. She had to wait for the storm to pass just so she could find her way back to the base. And she loves being outside when a storm is raging. I guess no surprise there. We love the passion, Ellen, and congratulations to you, our Geek of the Week.
Coughing, sniffling, and wishing you could stay in bed all day. When your cold is this bad, you need new Theraflu Express Max. Theraflu Express Max combines maximum strength medicines available without a prescription to fight your worst cold and flu symptoms, so you can feel better fast and get back to the job at hand. New Theraflu Express Max, the power to feel better.
Every step, every stride, every start. Begin strong with the lasting energy of 100% whole grain Quaker oats. And off you go.
Thursdays on the Weather Channel. When nature is this dangerous, only one question matters. Oh my God! So you think you'd survive? Thursdays at 10, only on the Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 80 degrees under cloudy skies. Today, overcast. A stray shower or thunderstorm is possible. High 79. Tonight, variably cloudy with scattered thunderstorms. Low 75. Chance of rain 40%. Monday, scattered showers or thunderstorms. High 82. Chance of rain 40%. Here's our 7-day outlook.
We are the party's last and only hope. Lord, help us.
Do you suffer from constipation or irregularity? Trust Dulcolax for dependable relief. Try free at dulcolaxoffers.com. Dulcolax tablets are comfort-coated for gentle overnight relief. Hurry, try free at dulcolaxoffers.com. Dulcolax, designed for dependable relief.
These hands are made to work, so I can't waste time with stripped and rusted fasteners. That's why I love the Craftsman Extreme Grip line. Screwdrivers with diamond-coated tips deliver 4 times more grip than standard ones. And sockets that fit snug on rounded bolts for 14 times more gripping power to keep me moving. Craftsman hand tools are protected by a lifetime full warranty. This holiday, put Craftsman at the top of your wish list.
Need new tires? Right now at Pep Boys, when you get 3 Falcon, Cooper, or Hankook tires, you get the 4th tire free instantly. Plus, get no interest and paid in full within 12 months on your Pep Boys credit card. Trust the boys to get you there.
Come to Boston Market for a full menu of meals featuring our fresh, never frozen rotisserie chicken starting at $6.99. And this holiday season, spend more time with family and friends. Let the holiday experts do the cooking. Boston Market, all good.
And we are back with Dr. Kim Cobb from Georgia Tech, a paleoclimatologist. And we are actually, if you take a look at some of the background images here, these are some pictures from some of your adventures. We're looking in caves and looking at some stalagmites. So, by the way, what's the difference between a stalagmite and a stalactite?
So a stalagmite grows from the ground up, and a stalactite grows from the ceiling down. So the stalactites hang tight to the ceiling. That's one thing to remember.
And I always remember it because stalactite has C for ceiling and stalag has G for ground.
There you go.
But so you use these things in coral and other sort of proxies, as we call it. These are proxy data that help us understand what's going on. How do you back out temperature from a coral, or I mean, just how do you do that?
Yeah, so it turns out that the chemistry of the coral skeleton changes as a function of ocean temperature. And this is a thermodynamic fact. And we're able to take advantage of that. This was discovered, 70 years ago. I didn't invent it.
So we're not making it up. It's not a hoax or anything.
Well, it's been around for a very long time, and you can prove it in a laboratory environment, and of course you can see it written into the records that I collect, noting the close correspondence between temperature and the chemistry of the coral skeleton that we measure at Georgia Tech.
Right, and so that's really how you back it out, and so and you verified this. We know it's useful. I want to talk about this a bit more, but when you're talking about, I guess, stalagmites or speleothems, other things in coral, do we get different temperature records or length records from different types of proxy data sets? Yeah,
so the different archives I work with couldn't be any more different in a way. So the corals are delivering us monthly information over the last 7,000 years. The stalagmites that you see behind me are growing, a fraction of a millimeter per year, but we're able to go back 500,000 years. So we use different proxies for different purposes to look at different mechanisms of climate variability and climate change.
Yeah, and so I know many of our viewers may have seen the movie The Day After Tomorrow. In the beginning of that movie, they're drilling ice cores, and that can get us back pretty far, with isotopic analysis of the trapped bubbles or whatnot in the air. So you build this temperature record. Can we detect sort of these sort of climate variations or variability signals like ENSO cycles, for example?
Yes, so that's what the corals are best at. So they are the gold standard for reconstructing El Nino events because they grow so fast that we can get monthly resolved information about ocean temperatures in the past, and we can see the coming and going of El Nino events. When I compare the coral record of El Nino events to the instrumental record of El Nino events in the 20th century, we see that it gets every single El Nino event, the amplitude of that event, exactly when it occurred in time. So we're actually, it's interchangeable with the instrumental record of El Ninos in the recent past.
And again, just more evidence that these methods are sound.
Yes, very well established.
Now, one of the things that's in the news right now is this global bleaching event. First of all, explain what that is and why that's important.
Yes, it's happening as a caused by these ocean temperatures that are rising this year with the current El Nino event and threatening many of the world's reefs, especially the reefs that I work on in the tropical Pacific. And so what happens when a coral is exposed to ocean temperatures that are too high for too long, then the symbionts that color that coral, make it blue or yellow or red, they take off and they leave the coral extremely vulnerable. And if ocean temperatures don't come back down in a period of 3 to 6 months, the coral is more likely to die than not.
Now, I want to clarify something. So this is really, you think, more related to the El Nino and not a broader anthropogenic climate change signal?
Certainly corals under continued threat by rising ocean temperatures everywhere on a decade-by-decade basis.
Right.
On the other hand, what's happening right now is a steep increase in temperatures that's occurring over a period of 6 to 12 months associated with this El Nino event, which is basically an extra hit against a background that is changing decade to decade.
And we will pick up on more of that after the break. But next, whether she's in a lab or out on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Cobb is raising climate awareness. We'll get some of her story next and find out how she balances family life too. Next on Weather Geeks.
And just like that, it's a whole new world outside. And jackets come out of hibernation. And we can feel the air. We can see it too. And we gear up and layer up and zip up. And we make the most of the new season. Because when the world is at its coldest, we're at our warmest. LLB. Guaranteed season after season.
The challenges facing the country never stop. So neither does the U.S. Army. We train, adapt, and get smarter. Every soldier, every unit, every day. Not to keep up with change, but to drive it. Nobody knows what problems tomorrow will bring, but we do know who will solve them.
All we need to sell Strongbow Hard Cider is ice. Oh, and an award for best tasting hard cider. You're in our shot.
No, I'm not.
Strongbow!
In a work world. Take time for Sunday. Just know that your truck has a little thing for Monday.
We are the party's last and only hope. Lord help us.
They say that in life, you shouldn't sweat the small stuff. But when you're building a Mercedes-Benz, there really is no small stuff. Every decision, every component is an integral part of what makes the 2016 C-Class one of the most sophisticated cars ever. Because when you're setting a new benchmark for refinement, it is the small stuff that makes the biggest impression. The 2016 C-Class. Visit Mercedes-Benz of North Palm Beach today, between PGA Boulevard and North Lake on alternate A1A.
I made a bet with him. He thinks no one loves Consumer Cellular as much as he does.
Oh, yeah? Then why do you think they keep getting the highest consumer satisfaction ratings?
Their plan started just $10 a month.
And no contracts.
Yeah.
Consumer Cellular has been providing AARP members with great service since 2008, and members get special discounts.
So other people love Consumer Cellular as much as I do?
Millions. To start your 30-day risk-free trial, call, go online, or visit a Target or Sears store today.
Or 2194.
We're geeking out on what's happening in weather, how it happens, and why it's so freaking cool.
Weather Underground, weeknights at 6 on the Weather Channel. We know you have a morning routine. We have one too. 7 days a week, AMHQ is right here and weather ready.
Where's the rain that's
what's happening right now as you walk out the door.
A lot of people traveling, but we'll keep an eye on for you.
Because the weather impacts your day in 100 ways you see and 1,000 ways you don't.
I want to make sure everybody can get an idea of what's happening here.
So include us in your routine.
Let's get right to what you want, and that is the weather.
AMHQ, every morning starting at 5 on the Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 79 degrees under cloudy skies. Today, cloudy. A stray shower or thunderstorm is possible. High 79. Winds east-northeast at 15 to 25 miles per hour. Tonight, scattered thunderstorms. Low 75. Chance of rain 40%. Monday, mixed clouds and sun with scattered thunderstorms. High 82. Chance of rain 40%. Here's our 7-day outlook.
I am back with my friend and colleague, Dr. Kim Cobb, and we both go to D.C. a lot, frankly. Why are you always in D.C.?
Well, you know, I am really there to inform and provide myself as a resource as a Georgia climate scientist.
Sure.
And if Georgia lawmakers want to learn more, I think they need to know where to go.
Right. And so you're talking to your policymakers, stakeholders, NGOs.
That's right.
Yeah. And I know you happen to go up to sort of one of the Congressional Awareness Days with one of our producers, Dr. Matt Siskowski.
That's right.
And so what happens in a function like that? What are you doing? Are you just trying to educate, or?
Well, you're really not trying to educate so much as provide yourself as a resource for their future information. Should they want to know more about sea level in Georgia, climate change impacts in Georgia, how it's going to affect our home state, they have somebody they can turn to in their backyard. And that's the whole purpose of that Climate Science Day on Capitol Hill.
Right. Now, what is your metric of success when you do these types of things, or do you have one, or do you just put it out there in the atmosphere and hope it's consumed?
Well, let's be clear. You met with some folks that are more hostile to the idea of climate change, and you met with some folks that are really eager to engage, and some in the middle who don't really know what to make of this thing but want to build a relationship with you, want to know more. So one of the things I've been happy to do through Georgia Tech is create an internship program for Georgia Tech students to intern on the Hill and be the point person for an office of a moderate Democrat to work on energy and the environment as a point. And that's been, for me, hugely gratifying and a point of success.
And, you know, I think it's important to note, I mean, on Weather Geeks, we've had a range of guests with various viewpoints on climate. We had Joe Bastardi here recently, who certainly probably has a different view than you and I on the topic. But one of the things I think we try to do is educate and remove some of this vitriol and hate. I mean, there are people that disagree with everything you just said on the show today, but, you know, it doesn't lead to vitriol. We don't have to hate each other.
I mean, the real point is to have a conversation.
Exactly.
Let's have a respectful conversation. I'll talk with anybody, anywhere about climate change. It's really about building a relationship and understanding each other. So that's why I'm there in D.C. year in, year out, building these kind of relationships, being respectful and offering myself as a resource.
Now, talk about this blog you wrote recently as it relates to something you noticed about your daughter's textbooks.
Yes, right. So I was flipping through her science textbook in 3rd grade, and I noticed there wasn't really mention of climate change at all, and I was surprised, of course. And then I went to the Georgia Science Standards and realized that nowhere in the Georgia Science Standards is climate change mentioned. And so that was really shocking to me, which had me digging through some of the standards that have been proposed at a national level that explicitly contain climate change language from the elementary, middle, and high school levels. And I would note that Alabama has adopted some of those standards in a state that's not so much unlike Georgia. So it really gives me hope that we can think about how to do this effectively in Georgia to equip our students with the information they need going forward on this topic.
Yeah, I think that's important. Now, kind of as we kind of pivot out of the show a little bit, now you're a world-renowned scientist. By the way, Dr. Cobb is featured on Showtime's Years of Living Dangerously. If you've had a chance to see that, but you also
didn't look quite like this in the field.
you have a family though of 4 beautiful kids. How do you balance a husband who's also a scientist? How do you balance all of that? I mean, because I know you do it well. I know a little about you personally. I know you do that well.
You know, I'm a scientist. You're a scientist. Maybe the viewers may understand there's no such thing as balance, right? It's always out of equilibrium, careening from one thing to the next, trying to keep it all together. I have 3 daughters, and I hope to show them that you really can have a career that you're passionate about, that you're driven by, topics that you care about, and that you can also have a family and enjoy that too. So that's really in my heart and soul.
That's super awesome. I have a daughter as well. We certainly need more girls getting into STEM. I mean, we certainly know that there's an underrepresentation there. So I think you're a positive role model. If you have a young girl out there, please look up more about Dr. Cobb. As we go out, any advice in general for young women trying to get into STEM? 20 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, really, the key point is to choose something that you're really passionate about and take a long view. Make sure that you have people who you can surround yourself with, who can be a positive force and help you through the challenges that you may have. Senior women and different people in your life, women who you can marshal their advice as you go forward, because you will have some challenges, but it's worth it.
And that's where we have to end it. As usual, join us on Weather Geeks. We're on Twitter and Facebook. See you next week.
Let's go.
A truck gets you places. It takes care of business when it gets there. And it lets us know who we are. For the best way to protect your truck, there's WeatherTech floor liners, laser measured to protect the front, back, and even up the sides, a bed liner, bump step, and no-drill mud flaps. Order yours today at WeatherTech.com. WeatherTech, proudly made in America.
It's more than the cloud. It's security and flexibility. It's where great ideas and vital data are stored. With CenturyLink, you get advanced technology solutions from a trusted IT partner, including cloud and hosting services, all backed by an industry-leading broadband network and people committed to helping you grow your business. You get a company that's more than just the sum of its parts. CenturyLink, your link to what's next.
Every morning, Rudy gets these new Milk-Bone Good Morning Daily Vitamin Treats. They've got nutrients that aren't in most dog foods, and I get stuck with these. Hey, why don't I get a treat? Oh, that's right. I get pancakes. Say it with Milk-Bone.
Come to Boston Market for a full menu of meals featuring our fresh, never frozen rotisserie chicken starting at $6.99. And this holiday season, spend more time with family and friends. Let the holiday experts do the cooking. Boston Market, all good.
Start your shopping early with great savings during our holiday prep event. Right now, select designer suits are just $229.99. All outerwear is 50% off. Plus, buy one, get one free on more great looks. Survive the holidays with Men's Warehouse.
Looking for the perfect holiday gift? The Ring Video Doorbell lets you see and speak with whomever's at your home from your smartphone.
Delivery for Mr. Harris?
Thanks, you can leave it at the door.
With Ring, you're always home.
Hello?
I'm doing free tree trimming estimates.
I'm bathing the children right now.
And Ring is the perfect device for monitoring your home.
Good night, Kevin.
So this holiday season, give the Ring Video Doorbell. Available at ring.com.
Lisa! Took you so long.
Duracell Quantum lasts longer in 99% of devices, so you can power imagination all day long.
This is Henry. Expertise, staining carpet. It is his life's work. He is relentless. He is resourceful. But this is new life-proof carpet from the Home Depot with stain-resistant technology built in to help keep tough stains out. Checkmate, Henry. Let's do this. Save 10% on any carpet purchase when you use your Home Depot consumer credit card. Only at the Home Depot.
We know you have a morning routine. We have one too. 7 days a week, AMHQ is right here and weather ready.
Where's the rain that's happening right now as you walk out the door?
A lot of people traveling, but we'll keep an eye on it for you.
Because the weather impacts your day in 100 ways you see and 1,000 ways you don't.
I want to make sure everybody can get an idea of what's happening here.
So include us in your routine.
Let's get right to what you want, and that is the weather.
AMHQ, every morning starting at 5 on the Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 79 degrees under cloudy skies. Today, cloudy. A stray shower or thunderstorm is possible. High 79. Winds east-northeast at 15 to 25 miles per hour. Tonight, scattered thunderstorms. Low 75. Chance of rain 40%. Monday, mixed clouds and sun with scattered thunderstorms. High 82. Chance of rain 40%. Here's our 7-day outlook.
I'm Mike Bettis. That's Sarah. Hi. Welcome to the set of a brand new show, Weather Underground. We're bringing together some of the smartest weather minds in the business. There'll be experts, bloggers, uber weather geeks. Just look at these guys, geeking out on hardcore weather science on every screen you have, 24 hours a day. And we're even letting you choose the topics. So tonight, what's happening in weather, how it happens, and why it's so freaking cool.
Weather Underground, weeknights at 6 on the Weather Channel.
Thursdays, the Weather Channel drops you into a new season of nature's worst-case scenarios and asks, so you think you'd survive?
It's coming toward us.
The hit original series is back to put your survival skills to the test.
Could be the last mistake you make.
Oh my God! So You Think You'd Survive, all new Thursdays at 10, only on the Weather Channel.
We have uncovered a remarkable planet, a world of extreme weather, alien landscapes, and bizarre phenomena. It's the most complex system we know of in the universe. That planet is Earth, and we are only beginning to unlock its secrets. Deep within the superheated core of this planet, spinning molten metal creates an invisible shield that covers the entire globe. This is the Earth's magnetic field, and the planet's shield is under attack.
The Earth's magnetic field has declined in strength about 10%.
If a large solar flare hits the planet Earth, it can throw us back perhaps 100 years into the past.
And the whole thing can have this cascading effect that can spell utter doom to society.
And there's a disturbing secret. Deadly solar flares are increasing. On Secrets of the Earth. Imagine it is night. Tomorrow, the Aurora Borealis appears across the northern part of the planet, dazzling millions in the cities of New York, Chicago, Seattle. Auroras are the only visual sign that this planet has a protective shield, a magnetic shield, generated at the planet's own liquid metal core. But there's a disturbing secret about the planet's magnetic field.
Right now, the Earth's magnetic field is getting weaker and weaker. And if a gigantic solar flare comes at us, we don't have this shield anymore protecting the planet Earth.
Auroras don't begin on Earth. They are the result of a solar flare, a mass of plasma that explodes from the sun's surface, carrying its own magnetic charge. When the auroras appear, the inhabitants of Earth might find them beautiful. But there's an ugly secret behind the beautiful display. 90 seconds after the auroras appear, every city in America could go black.
If a large solar flare hits the planet Earth, it could literally wipe out all our satellites and power plants and throw us back perhaps 100 years into the past.
The magnetic charge in the solar flare could overpower and burn out the North American grid. Transformers could explode in every major city. Power shuts down. Communications are crippled. Civilization nears collapse.
Hundreds of high-voltage transformers could be blown out permanently. So imagine much of North America without power It's estimated that 130 million people could be affected by this directly.
The estimated cost would be $2 trillion. That is 20 Katrinas, 20 times worse than Katrina, and it would be global rather than local.
This is the deadly power of a solar storm. In fact, it has happened before, with disastrous results. On March 9, 1989, a coronal mass ejection hit North America, temporarily destroying the power grid of the entire Canadian province of Quebec due to a blast of magnetism from the sun. The entire planet and its civilization is shielded only by the Earth's geomagnetic field and the simple power of magnetism.
Magnetism is this really interesting force that occurs when the atoms of certain types of metals are aligned with each other. So here I have two horseshoe magnets, and each of them has a north pole at the top and a south pole at the bottom. When I hold them together like this, the north poles repel each other and the south poles repel each other. The magnetism associated with little magnets also exists on a very large scale. The Earth